Vikings have been around since 1961. And I just want them to win a damn Super Bowl before I die. Welcome to Before I Die with Jessi and Myles on Purple Daily and Score North.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the regular intro. We're not doing this. We're not disappointed. I'm sorry. It needs to be said. One before I die. Not that I maybe truly believe that it could be this year, but the showing you guys last night in the wild card game against the Los Angeles Rams in Arizona, a more neutral site with your Vikings fans giving you a home field advantage, 27-9 drubbing. And even that score feels gentle compared to what we witnessed. The Minnesota Wild they're not. Oh, I just said the Minnesota Wild because that happens a lot with them too.
You're already over the Vikings.
Already over. We're moving on. The Minnesota Vikings. Guys, let's just air it out. Sam Darnold. Terrible performance. Holding on to the ball far too long in the pocket.
It goes from everywhere.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even see how many. 7 sacks at least? Nine total? 9 total.
Tied a record.
6 in the first
Tied
half.
a record.
81 yards lost. I think it was 81 yards lost on those sacks, and it's an average of 9.
Yeah. 3 for 245 yards, which actually almost got me my underdog bet, which was kind of nice. So go me. And 1 interception, 1 touchdown. Myles, let's start with you.
1 fumble too.
Just gets better. That stat line just gets better. Yeah, I remember that one. Maybe if he flicked it forward and kind of made that motion.
I literally said that same thing. I was like, man, just flick it.
Just flick it forward.
Flick it.
Hey, you know what? Good on Stafford to get that little sneak
Bro,
in
I
in
can't. Do you know how much these it's not an excuse. It doesn't mean we would have won all of this.
No.
But we're venting right now, right?
Yes.
How the Rams in the 2 games we played them this year have just been able to get away with things that you're like, how is that acceptable? And then the Vikings do something similar, and it's like, no. That works. That checks.
Right.
So it's just it's some of those frustrating things. That was a huge change in the game.
It was.
If it's not going to be a fumble, it had to have been
grounding.
I almost said, grounding, intentional grounding. But none of it. So it's just an incomplete pass. There's just some of those little things that impact, and I know the Vikings ended up getting a 3-and-out in that drive, and the Vikings offense to me was the big problem last night more than it was the defense. Yes, the defense gave up 10 points early, but that was pretty much it. It was after that, it was the offense putting them in really bad situations. And this is where I've struggled the most. Kevin O'Connell, again, getting out-coached. 2nd week in a row. It happened last week against the Lions. He doesn't... I knew what was happening going into that drive where they kicked the field goal. I was like, they're not going to go for it. He already even said it in the he was talking to the sideline reporter after the first quarter. He's like, we're going to get points here, and if we don't get a touchdown, we'll kick a field goal. I just knew it right there. I was like, oh, this man's not going for 4th down. He's going to kick a field goal because he believes we just need points. And I hate that wavering part. This is where I appreciate a Dan Campbell is that man is do or die. There is no, and you're there to win a football game. It's 4th and 2. You need a touchdown, and you then decide to kick the field. I wasn't that upset about it. It's just it's the wavering of his decision making on when to and when not to. It's very passive. I see you, Ross. Hold on, very passive. But then later in the game, right before half, at midfield, you go for it on 4th and 2. But so it's just again, it's the wavering. It's not. I'm all for the do or die, but it's the wavering. You can't go for it in Rams territory on 4th and 2, but you have to go for it at half field, midfield on 4th and 2, and you know that if you don't get it, you're flipping around and giving them a chance to go score again, which they do. It's just some of those things that have really driven me crazy about Kevin O'Connell of his in-game decision making at times. I love Kevin O'Connell. I'm not sitting here saying we should fire him. I'm not saying I think he'll get a long extension and I want him here for a long time. I think he's a very good coach. But there are things about head coaching that he needs to still learn as he progresses, moving forward. It's year 3 now. This is his 2nd time in the playoffs. It just felt he, again, like Sam Darnold, like his quarterback, felt overwhelmed. And that, to me, you got to slow things down. You got to quiet things down. And they did, both of them, Sam Darnold or Kevin O'Connell, just couldn't do it last night until it was too late. And what bothers me the most is when you get through the first half of the game, it's 24-3. The Rams didn't have to do anything in the second half to fend you off. They just had to play a little bit of defense, not give up any big plays, and that was it. And they only had to score 3 points, and it still was a rout. It's just those like small things that, well, not small, but like things that bother me the most. So I'm just getting off my chest. The game was over at halftime. We all knew it, but the fight just, it wasn't there. There's no updates. There's no options from Kevin O'Connell on offense to adjust what was happening in the game. Saw it last week too. Hey, Kevin, when teams don't want to let you go deep, they're going to double Justin Jefferson, and they're not going to let you have a deep play, especially late in the season in big pressure situations. They're not going to let you do it. So guess what you should probably do? Adjust your game plan a little bit so that you're not sending 4 of your 5 receivers deep. And yeah, it's those things that bother me the most right now. And then I know at least Kevin O'Connell said it. The interior offensive line needs to get fixed. They need to figure that out this offseason. We'll get into the offseason stuff at a later date, I'm sure. But that's one. Obviously, your quarterback holding the ball, but he's not your future quarterback. And then my last thing is fix the interior of the D-line too. You get no pass rush from the interior D-line, and you're literally getting killed by those things, but you're not impacting offenses within that same way. You're only relying on your edge defenders. So I'm done. I'm vented. Let it all out.
Good? Do we feel better about this?
Well, I don't feel better, but
I mean, but it's supposed to be cathartic in a sense.
Yeah. That it was nice to get out all those things you're feeling in the moment, and yeah. So thank you for letting me vent.
You physically look better, even in your face, Myles. You just look better. You look more relaxed. You look more happy after that rant. By the way, I'm not going to eviscerate you as much as I thought when you talked about the wavering, because I think you had more to say and you finished the thought, and I actually largely agreed with a good chunk of it. The one part on the going for it, not going for it, where I guess I maybe see it slightly differently, although I'm not far off base from you. By the way, great holiday-themed mug right there that you just flashed. Was that a little snowflake? Little holiday season red with snowflakes? What is that?
Something. It's my favorite mug. Nice. It's just a little, perfect size, fits the perfect amount of coffee.
I got the blue version of that. I promise you, it's literally the exact same.
I have a green. I used to have a green one too.
Look at this mug talk. This is my ugly mug.
What else is there to talk
talking about a good looking mug? Okay, so on the kicking the field goal to start to get on the board, when he did that interview and said, hopefully we'll get a first down. If not, we'll take points. I actually don't think that, to me, is a well thought out decision where he just said, okay. And at that point, to me, getting 3 is valuable. So I'm not going to hang him for that, and it sounds like neither were you. Where I will hop in is exactly what you said. The feel for the game, when you go for it at midfield late in the first half, when technically you can still say, yeah, we can scratch and claw our way back into it, but then you basically give the Rams free points. I didn't like that, but then again, he also knows his team probably better than we do, and maybe he knows it's slipping, we need to force something. The one thing I will say, and this is so a fairly non sequitur to it actually mattering in the game, but one of my biggest pet peeves in all of football is when we throw a challenge flag just to throw one because we think, there might be 1% of 1% that the officials might see something and we might get the ball. No, they're not. No, they're not, because if they saw it on a turnover, they would have just reviewed it anyways. And if you're going to fall back and say, well, at least you get a timeout to talk to your team, well, then just call a timeout and talk to your team. You're not going to win that challenge. You're not. So that, I don't know why, but that really just kind of bugs me. And it's not just KOC that does that. My vent session is pretty simple. And I don't hear me when I say this, that I didn't want the Vikings to lose last night, and that I'm not saying that the game doesn't matter, because I don't believe that at all. It's always better to win than to lose. However, Jessi might side with me a bit more than Myles on this, because I've talked about it on the show. When you never fully believed in the team, and maybe I'm just a poor fan, it's a lot easier to accept the result last night, especially after you lost to Detroit. Now, I thought the Vikings should have won last night. In theory, I think they're the better team. Newsflash, they weren't. But I'm just not going to be upset about a team that probably, I'm not, look, they won 14 games. They get credit for that. But if anybody believed in their heart of hearts, and I think maybe we all did at times, that maybe this could be different. Maybe this is like the Sam Darnold, Kurt Warner type story. Maybe there was a small chance that could happen. But I think we all knew that it was going to come to an end like this, right? So I can't be super upset about this. I really can't. You can be upset about things that went wrong in the game. There's even that one point where, Jessi, I think it was sack 6 or 7 as Myles goes to tend to kids on kid duty, where you can clearly see Kevin O'Connell is literally about to say, throw the ball away, right?
Yeah.
After Sam Darnold gets sacked. And
The
there's
7th sack. I remember that very vividly, because it's like, throw the ball away. Like, my 5-year-old knows to do that.
There's only so much that Kevin O'Connell can do. Should he get blamed because of how fairly inept the team looked last night? Yeah, he should get some of the blame. But, Phil Mackey talked about this last night on Ventline. The same people that at the beginning of the year are saying Sam Darnold is awful. Why are the Vikings signing him? Why is he going to be the starting quarterback? These are the same people that are now upset at Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold for not getting the job done. So
it's because they changed our expectations. It's not. I'm with you on that, but they changed our expectations because of how they played, and they won 14 games.
And
they definitely moved the posts. It's not about like. I'm all for like didn't have high expectations for the season, but when you win 14 games in the regular season, you can't turn around and just tell the fans, "What did you expect? You didn't expect us to be this good."
No. That's totally fine, Myles, but you also still have to view it in its totality.
Yes, I do.
You have to put it all together in a piece. So to basically just say, well, because they ended up overcoming 3 interceptions and beating an awful Jaguars team, they should go on to win the Super Bowl. No, I mean, there's actually some stuff that broke their way, too, that allowed them to win 14 games. So I'm not poo-pooing it. It's disappointing. By the way, the Vikings now, since 1968, moved to 7-19 in road playoff games. I don't know how you fix that. I know one team doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a team from 1998 or
win in Week 18. And you'll have a home playoff
Yep.
game.
And you don't have to. But that also goes to another point of mine. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Then I'll be done venting. Did anybody really think this team was going to win 3 road playoff games to get to the Super Bowl? Because I didn't. I think we even talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago. That's why I thought the Detroit Lions game was, I think, even more important than some people were making it out to be, because I just don't see this team winning many road playoff games away from home. So, yeah, to your point, Myles, win in Week 18, get a number 1 seed. I know it sucks that you won 14 games and didn't win the division, but when you don't win the division, you're at the mercy of these things happening in Week 1 of the playoffs.
Last thing on this, and then obviously want Jessi to get into this.
I'm here too, guys. Don't worry. I'm around.
You said it was a vent session.
Get it out. It's fine. I'm just taking it
No,
all
my last thing on that is it's not that I think we expected, at least me, expected them to make a run and go win the Super Bowl or anything like that. It was show up. You win
Correct.
14 games.
And I agree with that.
You put all these expectations on yourself after that Packer game and all this smack talking, all that stuff, which I'm all for. But then show in your 2 most important games of the season, because the rest of the games you put yourself here, right? You put yourself in high expectations from your fan base because you won 14 games. That's not a bad thing, but you then showed in those 2 most important games. That's where my biggest gripe is. And to your point, last thing, I'm not just going to sit and blame Kevin O'Connell. It's not just Kevin O'Connell's problem. Sam Darnold, that dude the last 2 weeks has been glossed over. Like, I still don't know if he knows where he is right now. So
did the team no-show or did the quarterback no-show? Because when the quarterback is that bad, it's really tough to tell how bad the rest of the team was. And I'll be honest. The offensive line was pretty poor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an impact of everything. But you can't just blame one singular player. I really don't think you can. As much as when Kirk was here, we'd love to find ways to, whether it was all Kirk or no Kirk, whatever. I feel similar to the Darnold. Like, there are things Darnold should have done better. But I think there's ways that Kevin O'Connell could have helped him out that I don't think that he did. He kept going back to we'll throw him out of his struggles in 2 straight weeks, and that just didn't work. So, Jessi, you go.
I don't like being embarrassed, and I feel like that's what the Vikings did to us the past 2 weeks, right? Like, I think that's just it, kind of going off what you said, Myles. Like, it's embarrassing a little bit. And yes, to Ross's point, I agree. I was never fully in any way. It feels like the makeup was finally wiped off of the Vikings the past 2 weeks. Like, oh, nope, just kidding. Here they are. This is who they, oh, yeah. Turn those bar lights on and you're like, yikes, what did I just take home and think it was a trophy? I don't love it. I do put a lot of that blame on Darnold because, again, my biggest gripe with him is get rid of the dang ball. Like, throw the dang ball. Do something with it instead of taking that sack. I just don't understand his thought process there. And then we touched on it a little bit. I think the O-line, and I said it last night, I think the O-line allowed for too much to get through. It was so porous. It was so bad. And we've seen that time and time again this year too, a little bit. At the end of the day, Sam Darnold is who we thought he was, maybe just a little bit, right? I mean, it goes back to that. Yes, they raised the expectations bar, which is great. It made for a fun season, right? Like, nobody expected it. It made for some fun. So we can enjoy that, as we always do as passive-aggressive Minnesotans, as Vikings fans, as Minnesota sports fans. It was kind of fun, right? But I would rather maybe that fun end before the playoffs. I don't like being just absolutely outplayed. It almost felt like there was an outcompete from LA too. And you look at all that they've had to go through, just even moving the game and all of that. Sure, you can talk about, oh, that would be a distraction for them. No, it was clearly motivation for them as well. So yeah, that's all I got. You guys vented it all out.
Do we all need a deep breath here really quickly? I think we do. I'm going to take one.
Oh, no, I'm good. I got it out.
I only have one more thought, because officiating did not lose the game last night. Now, you scan comments online and you see a lot about people being upset at officials. Well, newsflash, when you lose, you're always going to be upset at the officials. That's just the way it works in any sport. On the Sam Darnold Matt Stafford fumble, not fumble, that was returned for a touchdown. I actually agree that was a pass. I thought in real time that was a pass. I mean, it's a dumb pass. It's attempt at avoiding a sack, but it's pass, right? My issue has now been that 2 weeks in a row. I get it that technically it's not a penalty, but at some point I think the NFL, even though they probably won't because they love offense, at some point you need to look at, like, what is the integrity of intentional grounding, or what are you doing? Because the last 2 weeks, those are passes. Like, I do think that was a pass by Matt Stafford, but that's grounding. He's not trying to throw that ball to anybody. He's just trying to get rid of it. But by the rule,
who was it? Puka was there? Like, if he wasn't there,
but
so
he's
then
not even looking at the ball. He's basically kind of blocking. So, again, it's not a penalty the way it's currently written, and to me it was a pass. I just think we've really kind of taken liberties at what intentional grounding is, and I'm sure there's more examples than just the last 2 weeks against the Vikings. And here's what will inevitably happen. The NFL Rules Committee will meet over the offseason, and they'll change the rule, because that always happens after the Vikings are impacted by something in the playoffs.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we said it earlier, one of the sacks that Darnold took, I know Aaron Jones was, like, right in the backfield, and I was like, dude, just throw it to his feet. Just dirt it. Don't take the sack, dirt it. If Stafford can get away with it, so can you. Again, that's an awareness thing, though. I think Stafford knew that his players were there. It's not that, but... And
it was a smart play by Stafford.
It was. I mean, he's 36 years old.
It was a smart play by him. Like, good on him for even thinking of that, right? Like, we'll give this a go, see what happens.
Matt still has it, doesn't he? I mean, if I was him, unless I won the Super Bowl this year, I can't imagine I would retire yet. I mean,
he's got it at times. He definitely looked like it last night.
Yeah, he looked good last night.
He's got the weapons too that aren't terrible.
He's got
there.
the coaches, the offensive line. They invested. The Rams invested a lot in their offensive line this offseason.
Hey, you know what, guys? Big Leg Bill made a playoff field goal. Let's hope that experience helps him next year when he needs to.
He's the greatest kicker of all time.
Yep. I literally, before he was going to kick that, I'm like, he's gonna miss this. And my husband just darted this glare at me, and he's like, "You're not invited to the parade." And I was like, "Just saying, this team is exactly how it's." And it did. It was
pushing 5 yards back. He probably misses it.
That's a shame. So what do we do moving forward then, guys? Like, that's kind of the big question we talked about. What's your priority? And I know we'll go more in depth in this probably in one more episode before we call it a season on Before I Die. But what's your priority fix? I mean, is it finding somebody that can back up JJ, or what do we look at for the quarterback situation? Because Sam Darnold, I know those people that didn't want him, or he's not coming back, right? And he only has himself to blame for that at this point. But what positions are we looking at most improved? O-line? That's what I want.
Trenches on both sides for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interior offensive line. Even if you bring Garrett Bradbury back, which won't surprise me because they love him, but you got to at least fix the guards, right? You have to at least fix the guards around him, and then interior defensive line next to Harrison Phillips. You need guys that can get pass rush. I think Harrison Phillips is a good defensive lineman. He should not be your best interior defensive lineman.
Right.
That if you want to be a competitive, like really good football team, like deep in the playoffs type thing, he shouldn't be. And that all respect to him because I think he should be around, and I know they extended him. But you need some guys that can get to the pass rusher, get to the passer, so and rush the passer. So that's like a must for me because you can't just rely on blitzing and your outside edge defenders to go get to the quarterback. You can't. And you didn't. I probably could count on two hands how many pressures they had all season from the interior defensive line. So they need to get that fortified too. And then cornerback, like all of the players at cornerback are free agents, and most of your safeties. So they got to figure that out at some point. But they do have a lot of money to spend. It's just about I think this is the first offseason where Kwesi is going to have true flexibility of cap to spend. Unless they extend Darnold, which again, don't expect it to happen, but that's I guess a considered possibility, but I don't expect it to happen.
Also, as fans, if the Vikings do decide to franchise him to try and trade him for whatever they can get for him, I know that's probably greatly diminished after the last 2 weeks. Let's not all freak out as if, they franchised him, he's going to come back and be the starting quarterback next year. That's very likely not the case. To your point, Myles, pretty much everything you said I agree with. There's actually, and again, this was a flawed team. It was a pretty good team, and they played well. But for everything you just said, boy, they have to replace most of the secondary still. They probably need to get better on the interior defensive line. To your point on the offensive line, probably unrealistic that they're going to replace 2 guards and a center. But can you fix 2 of those 3 things this offseason? I think you probably can. You got $70+ million to spend. Maybe you'll even find more money by maneuvering the cap. I would say this. Kwesi had a great offseason last year in free agency, maybe one of the better ones in Vikings history, maybe the best. So I think you have to hope that he'll do it again, or perhaps believe that he'll do it again. But every decision this offseason, and I mean every decision, and this does qualify or quantify into defensive players too, every decision needs to be around how do we expedite, expedite, and do everything we possibly can to make our quote-unquote rookie quarterback, because it will be his first season of playing, how do we make him and this team the best that they possibly can be? If that's you're sitting with your pick in the draft and there's a wide receiver running back that falls that you can't believe is there, then you take that player. If there is another tight end that you feel is going to help J.J. McCarthy, you take that player. If there is a player from the Michigan Wolverines that J.J. McCarthy loves and thinks can help this team, you draft that player. You sign anybody and everybody that's going to make your quarterback as comfortable and as good as he possibly can be. Because newsflash, you're probably not likely to go 14-3 next year. Tougher schedule, first-year starting quarterback. But you can still compete. You can still maybe win the division. You can still maybe make the playoffs. But to do that, you need to make sure your quarterback is as comfortable and has every tool he possibly can have. So even if you need to slightly prioritize offense over the defense, you are going to need to do that because you're only going to get one shot to make J.J. McCarthy the best version of himself that he can be early on. 2 years from now, you can't go fix what was screwed up right now. The offseason priority is J.J. McCarthy and basically nothing else.
I like that. Which kind of leads to a little sprinkle of positivity. I'm going to put a little sprinkle of positivity on top of this pizza here.
A little dash.
A little dash. They didn't have the pieces to be a Super Bowl contending team. We all knew this back before the season started, right? I mean, whether Sam Darnold was going to pop off or not, they did not have the pieces. So I want to give a little bit of credit to KOC to what he was able to accomplish with the pieces that were in place. Right? Like, I think
I'm not going to bash him like a lot of people, Jessi.
I disagree with some of his play calling, and I agree with Myles where there are sometimes when he's out coached, the past 2 games in particular stick out because it is frustrating to watch because he's a good coach. He gets the best out of his players. And again, looking at the entire picture of the season, what he was able to accomplish with the guys in place as they were, pretty damn incredible, frankly. So I just wanted to
100%. Yep.
I want KOC to like me. So hi, Kevin. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think I really like that point, Ross. Give JJ the confidence, right? He's kind of like, I'll relate this to my hockey. I'm sorry, guys. What's hockey season fully now? Kirill Kaprizov. Build around Kirill. Make sure Kirill's happy. Let's do everything we can to do that. JJ, same story, except JJ's young and is going to be the future.
Well, and to Myles' point, I think one thing that can really make J.J. McCarthy feel comfortable is an offensive line that won't get him killed.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
And hopefully, I'm not going to bash him for this. We talked about this off air. I'm not going to rip Christian Darris off for being injured, but boy, would it be nice if he could play an entire season. And
I don't think
to
that's
a degree, I mean,
unfair.
Brian O'Neill's missed a fair amount of time here in the last year or two. And again, injuries are injuries. There's not a lot you can do about that, but if the Vikings could get Lady Luck on their side to keep two of the best tackles in football healthy for an entire season or two, that would be wonderful. I don't know what we need to do to make that happen, but that would be great.
Well, what's crazy is outside of those guys, they were healthy. I mean, you had guys miss, like Ivan Pace was out, Blake Cashman was out at different times in the season, but overall, they're like core starters stayed healthy most of the season. Like, yes, guys get banged up. It's 18 games of NFL football. People are going to get banged up and hurt and miss a game here and there, but overall, they were fairly healthy. And I think that's also a little bit of the frustration is, to your point, is like, if guys are going to be healthy, why, like, there shouldn't be as much of an excuse of you miss a guy here, we got to replace. That's where depth is, but you didn't really strain your depth. But the hard part is kind of similar to where we were with the old regime. You were very top heavy. Yes, I think they had better depth on this team than we've seen of years past. But overall, they're fairly top heavy, and they had, especially on the defensive side, you had to start. Every starter needed to be available for you to feel even competent on defense, or I should say good, because I think Brian Flores got the most out of those guys, too, to the point of Kevin O'Connell getting the most out of his players. I think Flores did the same on defense. But you needed every one of those guys to be healthy, otherwise it was really rough. And we saw it especially. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go finish.
I think I finished my thought. It's just more of like you needed
trying to strip the ball from you.
Your core starters on defense to stay healthy, especially at corner, and mainly at corner and linebacker were the biggest two.
They were streaky. Like that's just it. It was just very, very streaky throughout the course of the season, which you can't have. Like that's not going to yield you the success you need. I had a damn it.
See, you should have just done it. You should have just rolled.
Were you thinking you had a good segue and then you lost it? Is that what you were gonna do?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. It was something. It was just right there. It was just right. Oh, defense. Because we haven't touched on it yet. That's it. There was no segue probably there out of it either. How do we feel about the odds B-Flow returns? We know that he's being asked to be interviewed for head coaching positions, and the defense. Again, tough start yesterday, but they pulled it off. I think the defense in general, obviously a phenomenal season, a large part of success this year. What are chances that Brian Flores returns as your defensive coordinator, or does he explore the head coaching options once again? Anybody?
It sounds like he's going to explore them. He said that as much. I don't know if he'll get it. We obviously saw the New England Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, so that one's off the table. I think... Would it be the Jets? Maybe the Cowboys might be interested. I don't know because they just opened up their window for a new head coach with Mike McCarthy now going out the door.
I'd be shocked if that's not Dion.
I would be too.
Dion.
I would be too, by the way. And my guess is that they planted that seed before they let McCarthy walk. That's just my opinion. Jerry Jones is an awful.
But Chicago can't interview McCarthy, even though we're going to let McCarthy walk. Did you guys hear that?
I think
they requested it like 6 days prior.
Is it tomorrow they can finally interview him?
Yeah. So tonight I think tonight at midnight his contract expires. Yeah, they requested. That is pretty fun. I don't think
Cowboys
Dallas wanted to. My guess is that Dallas said no to that because they wanted to plant seeds before they made a decision.
Yeah.
But it even sounds like they didn't even negotiate a contract with McCarthy in that window. So that's funny to me. To your point, Jessi.
Yeah, thank you.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he interviews. I think the league realizes that they have to interview him to prove that they're not blackballing him from a head coaching job. but I don't think he'll get one. I don't. Not while he's still suing the league, which I'm on his side, by the way. But yeah, I think he'll be back, which is a good thing for the Vikings. But I would love to see him get another chance because I know Ryan Fitzpatrick came out and kind of bashed him a little bit, but I think the one thing that we don't do is allow people to grow. And I think the one thing you've seen from Brian Flores and other coaches around the league is just because your first off didn't work doesn't mean you don't learn and can't be better the next round. And so sometimes not everybody gets that second chance. And I know that's the dog-eat-dog world that the NFL is. You're not always going to get that second chance, but I think if Flores got a second chance at a head coach, it'd be different than it was in Miami for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would not.
Doesn't
be
mean
surprised.
it would work either, but I think he would be different in how he approached it.
I would not be surprised if he gets a head coaching job. I honestly wouldn't. It's only going to take one owner to say, I don't care that you're suing the league. That's the league's issue, not mine. And I do think there's one owner out there that probably would do that. But I wouldn't be surprised, but I still think it's more likely than not that he's back here next year. And who knows, maybe the last 2 games against very good competition where the defense didn't look as good as it has, maybe that will play into people's minds. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different circumstances there that allow that to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if he gets head coaching job. I think he's up to 3 teams that have requested to talk to him. And maybe he's already talked to 1 or 2 of them. But I'd still probably be surprised. But I also trust, look, Kevin O'Connell, once the Ed Donashell thing didn't work out, went and found himself a good defensive coordinator. And I think if he has to again, he'll find one. So I'm not super worried. Heck, maybe it's somebody from within. I don't know, but I'm not super worried one way or another.
Did you intend to say Donashell, or was that a little dig?
I did. I stole that from, I think, Thor, our buddy Thor. I think he said.
I remember that was a big thing.
Donashell.
Yeah, I do. I was like, but I didn't know if maybe it was just a
Freudian slip.
Yes, exactly.
No, I planted that one.
I love it.
Should we hear from some of the vent liners?
Oh, we have vent liners. Yeah.
Should we do some comments quickly? Let's do that.
Let's wrap
do you guys
it,
have time?
Yeah. What else I got to do?
Let's do it.
Comments from YouTube.
This one comes from Lynn Jensen 150. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We kind of talked about this a little bit. In other words, last week was on Darnold, but this is on KOC. KOC failed to prepare the team. I question whether he will ever be able to prepare the Vikings adequately in the playoffs. You know, and in fairness to Lynn's point, I would say Brian Daboll probably outcoached him a few years ago, too, in the first round here at US Bank Stadium. My question here is you get 100%. Okay, you get 100%, but you can only give it to 2 people. This is our own version of the pie chart of blame here. Jessi, of your total 100%, how much of last night goes on Kevin O'Connell? How much goes on Sam Darnold? And then Myles, you get the same question.
So 100%, but it's only 90% Darnold.
It's only those 2.
I'll give.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'll do 80-20 because I do. I did dislike some of the clearance that KOC seems to give Darnold once in a while. Because again, we've talked about it. Like, you need to stop it. Like, tell him no. Like, just tell him no. So 80-20. That's what I'm going with. Myles.
I'm gonna go 65-35, somewhere in that range. Like, okay. Overall, it's more the blame goes to Darnold than it does anybody else. But I still think that Kevin O'Connell has to bear that brunt too, just because I think the one thing he does struggle with is adjustment. He's stubborn, and he wants it to. He just play out of it, just play through it, and make it work. And that hasn't worked the last couple of weeks, and we've lost both of those 2 big games. Not just because Kevin O'Connell didn't adapt, but I think he is stubborn and doesn't always want to adapt. And maybe moving forward, we'll see a little bit more of adjustment in my hope. But, more Darnold than anybody else.
The defining moment of the game for me, and I can't believe we haven't talked about this, is you're kind of still in the game, and they attempt to throw a little swing pass or screen pass to Aaron Jones, and Sam fires it right past him too low and too fast. And you look at that and go, man, that's the simple throw. Those are the ones you should make in your sleep. And you didn't even give your running back a chance to make a play there. I think it's like a 75-25, if anybody cares what I have to think. Comment number 2 comes from Tommy Gunn, 1521. I love that just because it makes me think of Home Alone. But my Tommy Gunn sure don't, or whatever he says in that part of the movie. I'm sorry, but 14 wins means absolutely nothing when you don't win a division or a single playoff game and get blown out in your two biggest moments of the year. O'Connell for Coach of the Year is officially a silly joke. Great use of the word silly, by the way. We don't use silly enough. Describe the Vikings season in one word, Myles, and then back it up a little bit.
One word?
Words are hard.
They are hard, especially one word. As you guys know, I'm a very much, I like to talk. I'm gonna let it all out. I don't know. Maybe that's the word.
One word. I don't know.
IDK.
Okay.
I mean,
still
fair.
marinating. Still thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessi, what do you think? One word, and then you can give some context to it.
I almost said fun, but it wasn't fun enough.
It wasn't fun enough. I know, like chaotic,
Listen,
maybe. Like
chaotic.
there was a little bit of.
Was it meh, Myles? It was just meh.
I was gonna say meh, but it's like that's a lie because there were some weeks when it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
So
there were
I would say
14 games in
chaotic.
the regular season, so it's not that this was just like a complete awful season.
Yeah.
It's just the timing of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm gonna go with chaotic.
They
In
were
the
going to
good
win
ways and the
9.
bad
They were going to
ways.
win 9 in a row after this. By the way, just the way the season was trending.
Absolutely.
They won 5 in a row, lost 2 in a row, won 9 in a row, then lost 2 in a row. So they're either going to win
They
5
didn't
or
need to win 9 in a row. It wasn't going to be 9 in a row. They didn't need
I
to,
know.
but they have to win this one in order to get that opportunity.
I know.
Maybe they'll start 9 in a row next year. Wouldn't that be something?
Football.
I mean,
They
Comment
were
number
not.
3.
If they came out with half that performance against LA against the Eagles, my goodness, I
it
would
was good.
cry. It would have
Bloodbath.
been a bloodbath. Oh God, actually, I kind of want to see it now.
Maybe you will.
Well, we kind of
next
saw it
year.
from Green Bay, if we're being honest. Green Bay kind of did a similar
Yeah,
thing. It was
they
very,
floundered.
Yeah.
very floundered.
Mhm.
You know,
Didn't really
if you're
do
looking
much.
for positives in the season, you beat your chief rival twice, and they were also bounced in the first round of the playoffs. So at the end of the day,
I know, but I can't
both
talk.
teams had similar seasons.
The only thing I could talk smack about is we swept him in the regular season, which is great. But I was hoping I waited to say anything after they lost to be like, oh, let's see how the Vikings do. Because if the Vikings win, I'm going full bore. And then of course they did.
Oh no, Myles, you just got to get super petty. Technically, the Vikings advanced farther. There were teams eliminated before them, and they played a day later. The
Yeah.
Vikings made it farther in the playoffs. Than
That's
the
a great way to
Packers.
look at it.
You just got to get super petty, Myles. That's the way to do it. Okay. Final comment comes from Kyle Odell, 4273. He says, quote, "This season was a surprise. This was expected." End quote.
Bars.
No, love it. Mic drop.
So here's the question, though, because we could probably just leave it with that. We could just say that's the comment, no question.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought about this last night. I was texting some friends, as we all do, a bunch of different text chains throughout the game. And absolutely, we want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl, and they will. I don't know if it's next year. I don't know if it's 35 years from now, but the Vikings will win a Super Bowl. Hence, before I die, let's do this thing. Maybe it's next year. But I was talking with a couple people last night, and it was the old deal of, the Cubs. The Cubs finally got one. It took 100 years, but they got one. But then after the Cubs got one, they kind of lose some of that lovability. Now they're just like everybody else, right? When the Vikings win a Super Bowl, the fan base could be slightly damaged a little bit. We won't have our identity anymore. We've always joked when the Vikings win one, do we say before I die again? What is it? But 64 years of this now, and again, I mentioned 7-19 in the playoffs on the road since 1968. Jessi, I'll start with you. Myles, you can take us home on this one. Are Minnesota Vikings fans permanently ruined? Can we be fixed? Or are we just ruined as a group?
I think we're ruined, but I look at it as too. It feels like Minnesota fans don't get like, oh, we'll give you a big hug. Like they don't. There's not as much like, oh, the poor Vikings fans. You hear about a lot of other fan bases, right? That deserve it. They deserve this. I don't know that Minnesota gets that attention, and maybe that's just the Minnesotan in me feeling that. But anybody else, like I don't know. I just feel like people forget about. Well, Minnesota hasn't gotten that either, and it just seems like it's never really like, oh, you poor guys. I don't know. Maybe that's just how I feel. Maybe I feel slighted all the time.
I definitely think because we're flyover territory, people don't acknowledge our pain, Jessi.
They don't understand. Like
They
people
don't get
forget
it.
about it. And I'm just like, but it's real.
Myles, are we ruined?
We are until we're not. Like, winning cures all, as you saw. Like Kansas City before. I'm not saying we have a Patrick Mahomes. We have that.
We're Kansas City now. All right, that's what I'm gonna take away. Myles is his name. He said it. He said it.
I feel great.
You have all these teams that have never won a Super Bowl before. Or like even the Eagles were in this boat. Like, until you do it, yeah, you're cursed. Like, it's just we're ruined until we're not, and that's how I kind of view it. Is you'll be jaded. I've always said this, and this is why I always get mad or upset with fans who are like, "Oh, the Vikings should be higher in the power rankings in each week when they're winning and stuff like that." So no, just like prove it out later. Like I couldn't care less if we're rated 6th or 9th in the power rankings on week 10 because we've won 7 games or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just prove it and win. And so to me, you are until you're not. That's how I feel.
Myles, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think we all weighed on this. Is there anything more dumb than power rankings?
Oh, but you know why they do it. I think, yeah.
It's to talk about, but you know what the power rankings are? That's called the NFL playoffs. I don't care in week 10 if the NFL power rankings say the Vikings are 4. Who gives a bleep about that?
I couldn't care less in week 18.
It is a good talker, but it doesn't mean anything.
No, it means nothing. And I view the same way in college football, by the way. And
I loved it in college football, but that's because Iowa State always crept right up in there.
Well, so one week you could say, "Oh, we beat the 15th ranked team in the nation," and then by the end of the season, it's like, "You didn't beat any unranked teams. You didn't beat any ranked teams." It's like, well, they were ranked 6 weeks ago. Like, it's not my fault they suck now. Like, Iowa State.
Wow.
I had to. I'm sorry. I need to feel better, Jessi.
Okay, that's fine. Take your pain out on me.
Feel better by putting down others.
I know. I'm usually not even. I'm not even that type of person. I just wanted to do it.
I like it. I have been told by people that you're just very easy to make fun of and I'm like, that's fair. Like, you're right. It's kind of.
I get that too. People do that to me all the time.
Yeah, passionate person. Mm-hmm. Should we wrap up with Before I Die, boys?
Well, yeah, let's do that.
Time now for the Before I Die crew to give us their Before I Dies.
Ross, why don't you kick us off with some complaint about people or lines or whatever it is that you like to vent? See? I just turned it around and said it that way.
Some old curmudgeon-y thing that you have to vent about.
You know what? I really didn't have anything to talk about. I really didn't put much thought into this one, which is ironic because typically I come prepared with like a 5-paragraph essay. But I guess we'll go back to Costco for this one, and I'm going to be outside of sports here at all. And forgive me if I've talked about this one before, but do either of you have like a Costco membership or a Sam's Club, or are you at least familiar with it?
Team Costco.
Okay.
Hashtag Costco.
The amount of people who don't understand that you can pump gas from either side of the pump at Costco, and that you are allowed, if there's 3 gas pumps, and the middle one is open, but people are pumping gas in 1 and 3, you are allowed to move up there and snake into the second spot. And then if I see a spot open and I wait a minute and nobody moves and then I go get it, you want to get mad at me? No, bleeper. You had a chance to move up to that spot and you didn't. Okay, so the lesson learned here. If your gas pump is on the left side, that doesn't mean you can't park on the opposite side. Those hoses extend like 30 feet. Go to the open one. It's not that hard, people. Oh, also, do not wash your car in the winter when it's 30 degrees and sunny out. You're going to drive a block down the road. Your car's going to be dirty. You wash your car when it's cold out.
I made that mistake last week.
Yes, you wash your car when it's in the 20s or colder and there's no sun. Do not wash your car when it gets warm in the winter. You know what?
Can't
Instead,
do it when it's 20. I don't even think it's open when it's 20. I think
yes, they are. Yes, they are. If it's really cold, they might not be open. But here's an idea. If you're going to wash your car on a 30-degree sunny day in the winter, just give me $15 and I'll light it on fire for you. I think that's the deal. So people, just pay more attention to what you're doing with your cars. That's the Before I Die today.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to get lit up for first world problems again, but newsflash, I live in a first world. So these are problems.
Yeah.
I mean, my similar event would be about like merging onto highways. If you have a runway to speed up to get to the miles per hour, like get to it. Don't go 40 and hope someone lets you in. The whole idea is to seamlessly transition into onto the highway.
You put
Amen.
Sorry, I got.
You put it like
That's
I gotta
okay.
eat. I gotta eat.
It's
My
a good ice
daughter's
cream.
homesick. It's
You
great
got
ice
Ice
cream.
cream cone?
Looks like a good ice
Yeah,
cream
looks
cone.
good. Is
You
that
gotta
like
put
mint
it
chocolate
like
chip,
this.
Jesse? What do you think?
I had
that
to
is?
I had to bribe her with a donut so she'd take her medicine because she's got strep. And so she's got
a good
chocolate
bribe.
over her face.
Did she get
I
the
mean,
bubble gum
do what you gotta do.
amoxicillin, Miles?
I think
Yeah.
that's
The
what
bubble
it
gum
is.
so good.
amoxicillin out of the fridge?
No,
Oh,
amoxicillin's for your earache.
No, yeah, that's earache. She didn't have it
okay.
an ear infection. I can't remember what it's called for strep, but
Yeah, strep isn't as good. I mean, yeah, amoxicillin.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. One of those that was like bubble gum. I used to fake
it's
sick,
the
so I
pink.
would get
It's
it.
the pink color. Oh,
It's
you
the pink
like,
ear
liked
infection.
it? You fake
Oh, I
sick,
loved
so you
Oh, I
trying
loved
to
it.
chug.
Yep. Loved
Ross
it.
trying to chug medicine just
get
because
a
it's
little-
pink,
Sounds about right.
or
Sounds about-
because it's bubble gum.
that
You know,
part.
you can get non-medicine bubble gum flavored things.
Yeah, you
Yeah, but
can.
it's not as good.
Yeah, my kids don't like bubblegum flavored things. It's just funny.
My kids are picky
Speaking
when
of
they wanna be.
before I die, we can let kids stay in the nurse's office if they're not actually sick because my now 5-year-old seems to think if he tells them that he has a headache, he can just come home. And I'm like, no, you can
I
stay
was
in the
that kid.
office.
I was that
And
kid.
then, oh my gosh, I did it when I got into fights with my friends, and I would be like, well, I'm just gonna go sit in the nurse. And my parents always knew it, and they always called BS on it too. They're like, she's fine, she's fighting with her friends, she's just pouting in the nurse's office. She can stay there. But I feel like nowadays you can't. They're like, nope, you're gonna come get him. I was like, I know he's fine. Like I know he just wants to come home, and sure as heck, he just wanted to come home yesterday. So I told him today, I was like, I will leave you there for the entire day. I'm not picking you up anymore. So I don't know if that's good parenting or bad, but
You know what? I as a
We're too soft.
non-parent, as a non-parent, the one thing that I would say here is, well, first off, I agree with you guys, but second off, when did we start deciding that kids needed to take like third grade super seriously, like it was their second year or third year of college? It's
I
third
mean,
grade.
fair.
You
That's
know,
true.
calm-
But stay and play with your
That's a
friends. I
really
got
good
things
point.
to
Calm
do.
down.
I got things to do. All right. It's more about me.
I
less
didn't
about
start doing
him.
that till like middle school, or I skipped school and did things like that. But different
Doesn't surprise
conversations,
me.
right? I had
I was such a nerd. I'm such a nerd. I'm
I
too
was
goody two
not.
shoes.
We got
Oh.
my sister and I got really good on how to game the system for a while.
Yeah.
Let's just
My
do that.
father's signature, and he knows this, was so easy to forge. It was literally just like 3 letters and a scribble, which I've fairly adopted that same schedule. Oh,
I
on-air
only did
production
it-
meeting. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys.
Said I
ahead,
only forged so I could go to the high school hockey tournament because Matamid I was never in it. So I was like, I'm going to skip. But even then, nobody could be mad at me. So
One,
Wait, you went to
we'll do this-
Matamidi?
yeah,
We'll have to talk.
One,
the Edina of the East.
Well, yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
we
great,
will
great
do this.
school.
We will do this podcast again next week. It'll probably drop on Monday. Second off, I don't know if you could sound any more Minnesotan than you just did, Jesse. I forged my dad's signature to go to hockey.
You betcha. I got on the bigs. It was so good. It was so good
To go to hockey.
to go to hockey. I got lost in downtown St. Paul, but couldn't call them to ask. So that's how I learned how to navigate the one ways in downtown St. Paul when I was
That's-
16. Because I'm like,
That's
gotta figure
another
this
thing.
out. Yeah,
Why does every St. Paul road run at an angle and then randomly just spit you out on a highway?
it really does. It's a little aggressive, but I love it. I love St. Paul. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. As Ross said, we will have another episode next week. Lots of Purple Daily content. The season's over, but our love lives on. Until next week, have a great day. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say Skol. Just disappointed.
Good night, Hennepin County.